I'm Lily and this is Lily and the Bee, and today I'm going to show you how to make a cubie bag like this one, which I made a couple of weeks ago, and a few people asked if I could show them how I made mine. So I'm going to go through it with you step by step, not tutorial as in I'm going to be showing you down. I'm going to show you as I'm stitching it and talk through each stage, how I make it and how you can make one if you want to, and how you can make it in your own style, what you can use, what type of fabrics, that kind of thing. So stick with me if you're interested, and let's start, shall we? I've got this lovely tablecloth, that's the back, which was my nanny's, and I'm going to, you can't use it as a tablecloth because it's got stains on it. It's not very nice in places, but bits of it are perfect. So I'm going to be using this to be the centre of my English paper pieced hexie flowers, as I have done on that one, which I've just used again. I've upcycled a tablecloth. Oh, as a cushion cover, that one. That wasn't Nanny's, that was one I got from a charity shop. Right, so what will you need? You will need, I've used 9-inch squares, and you will need 5 squares. Each square is going to have a front and a back and some wadding, batting, wadding for the middle. You do need the wadding because otherwise it'll be a very floppy. You could make it, but it's going to be a bit too floppy, I think. All of the bag is hand sewn, apart from there's one bit that I machine sew, but you don't have to. There are other ways that you can do it if you don't have a sew machine or you don't want to machine sew. But the kind of look I wanted for this one, I did hand sew. I did a machine sew part of it. So you need 5 of these, 1 for each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 for the bottom. Don't forget the bottom, otherwise it'll be a bottomless bag. So I've got these two like this, and I'm going, and the bottom I have slightly differently. Rather than the plain pink for the bottom, I'm going to go with a rosebud. Turn it round the right way. Rosebuds, because they want to look in my bag, it will have lovely pretty rosebuds in there. So I've got all my pieces already cut out. I've used, I might have said this already, 9-inch squares, but as long as your squares are all the same size, you can use any size squares that you like. I mean, you can make them really small, it wouldn't take long. Yeah, so you can go as big as small as you want, but 9, I would say it's a medium size bag, and you can put quite a lot of things in. Let's see how big this one is. Yep, so it's pretty, opens up pretty big. And into, that's why I like these ones, because they open up into a proper square box. So if you are a knitter or a crocheter, you can pop all your balls in there. And then when you're finished and you're popping it away, you can just tie up the middle, keep them safe so your cat or dog don't eat them until you're ready to knit or crochet again, or you can put whatever you like in it. That's how I imagine you making it and using it, though. I imagine people making it and putting the wool in or the yarn in. So I'm going to do English paper piecing in the middle of mine, and I've got some of it kind of started. I'm not going to majorly go into the English paper piecing part because you don't have to do that. You can just make the squares however you want. You could do patchwork or upcycled fabric, or you could embroider the whole thing, or that would look nice with just complete embroidery all over, whatever you like. But as that's the one I made before, and that's the one that I said that I would show you how to make, I'm going to show you how to make that one. But I said I'm not hugely going to go into the English paper piecing. But if you don't know what English paper piecing is, it is basically little shapes. These are hexagons, but you can make all different shapes really, and you cover them with fabric. I've used a glue to glue the edge of mine, which is Sew Line, which is a blue one, so you can see it on there. And I literally just got some more cut out here. Basically pop that on there, put the glue here, fold, put the glue here, fold, put the glue here, fold. If you don't have any glue or you don't want to use glue, you can just stitch with a bright coloured, big fat stitches are fine. with a bright colour because you're going to pick them out afterwards. This is the one I've made for the middle, which is the bit from Nanny's embroidery. So I've started that and I've started gluing them, but I haven't finished. I've just got a couple here. So what I will start to do now is right sides together, and I'll do a little stitch, which is an over and over and over stitch. So join those two together like that. And then I will go round, and I tend to put them all round first like that, and then do the sides afterwards. And that will then be appliqued onto the bag, but I'll show you when I do that. Appliqued onto the middle there, and that will be one of the panels made. But as I said, you don't have to do English paper piecing at all. You could do a different flower, you could do whatever you like. All for people doing their own thing, and you know, whatever makes you happy. Or you might start and not have an idea, and you might start playing with fabric and think, oh, I think I'll do this or this and this, or then I'll just end up somewhere completely different to where you started. But as long as you've got these 5 squares, you can make the bag. So I am going to get on a little bit with this. Or to show you my tool first, I have, if you are interested in English paper piecing and kind of chopping bits off things, or just in general trying to find the best bit to cut round, I have got one of these little shapes that I bought, so you can just draw around the fabric, and as you can see, it's smaller than the hexie. Something's tickling my face. So I've cut exactly round there, and then the hexie is small. It's perfectly, if you did think that my shapes were very neat how I'd cut them out, it's because I drew around this. And it's particularly good if you are using embroidery, because you can really see which bit looks best and draw around it, and make sure you use the nicest part, and it fits kind of central and it looks exactly how you want it. As I said, you can use it for fabric as well, just choosing the nicest. I mean, the Liberty looks nice all over, but you could have something and it had a bird on it. Or, I'm sorry, I've got something tickling my face again. You could have a bird on it or something, or any animal, or anything that you want to get right in the center here, and make sure it's central in the middle of your hexagon. So that's and I got that from Sew and Quilt, and the little glue stick that I use is Sew Line. I think I've already told you that. So I'm going to get along. I'm going to carry on stitching these for a little bit. I'll get my cotton. Have I got one here? Oh, isn't it nice when you stitch and you've just got one ready? Oh, it was threaded and now the thread is coming out. So I'm going to start stitching these together. Also, what I will say is, when I take my card out and I use embroidery in the middle, because the fabric's normally quite see-through, I tend to cut out some wadding the same shape as this, and then I poke that underneath as well when I take the paper out, and kind of poke that in and stitch that in a little bit. Or you could go, here it is. I've got one ready. Oops. Yeah, then I sort of pop that in the middle. So that will be underneath, and it gives it a lovely puffy appearance, and I just think it keeps it safe. So anyway, I'm going to start stitching. I must remember, I'm telling you to put the right sides together. So because this pattern is so pretty all around, I'll have a rough look at where it needs to go. But I've got a few Liberty, and I use this one because it's got a little bit of lilac in there, which I thought would bring out the colour of the lilac in the flowers. If you're not sure which colours you like, you are not sure which colours will look nice together, just have a play around with them. Don't overthink it too much, just pop them in different areas, pop them all around. Oh, that looks nice, and just, you haven't got to think too much beforehand. And it's nice, English paper piecing is really good to go through your scraps. I just did a couple of double stitches there, a couple of stitches, and then I made a little loop and went through just to make a little knot. So like that. There's a knot, and then that will be quite secure then. And then I'm going to stitch all the way along. I'm going to just do this first one so you can see. And I can chat along as I'm doing it, but it might not be very neat. Oh, I've got one of those knots. Did you know if you get one of these knots like this, which are quite common when you're hand sewn, if you just pull it like that, it goes like magic. I love hand sewing, it's so relaxing. It's boiling hot today. I nearly didn't, it's Wednesday, so it's my day off, and I didn't want to leave this video. I wanted to get it made as soon as I could, really. It's absolutely boiling, and I thought, oh, I can't do it, I'm too hot, but I'm okay at the minute. I think when I was cutting out all the squares earlier, that was getting a bit hot doing that, but just sitting and doing the hand stitching is nice. I can carry on doing the hand stitching. I might not finish the tutorial today, I might finish it another day, because I've got all these to do. 4 panels to make. So if you do make one, I'll be interested to know. I've done one of those knots at the end of here as well. If you do make one, I'll be really interested to know if you do, what you put in the middle, or don't have to put anything in the middle, but what you make, what your idea is. So 2 together. Don't they look lovely? I do like embroidering myself, but I also like reusing things that, I mean, maybe it's a shame to cut things up, but also if it's got a stain in it, no one's going to use it as a tablecloth anymore. I think it's nicer if it's used. So let's put those together. This fabric is so nice, it just blends together. Put the 2 together and they just look lovely. This video is ages, it's quite long already, it's because I'm just chatting along while I'm doing it. I am going to stop recording. Let me do another double. Just because I'm joining a new piece, I'm doing another knot. You can't see the knots or anything, and you can't see the stitches at all on the inside. What I would say, if you are English paper piecing, is if you were using dark fabric and dark and pale mixed, you might be able to see your stitches more. Whereas if you stick to all the same kind of dark or light colours, it will be easier to make it look a bit neater, if that makes sense. Right, I'm going to carry on with this, and then I will either record a bit later today or another day when I've done a little bit more on it, and I can show you more about what the next stage will be. So I will see you soon. Hello again, it's another day, and we are continuing with our English paper pieced box bag, which is here. I am at the stage of, I have sewn all my pexies together to make the flower shape, and I still have the papers in. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the middle paper out. I'm going to just peel those off, can you see? And then should fairly easily peel the rest of it back, and then that just slides out like that, and then you can use this again if you want to. And there you can see the centre, taken that out, but because you've got these folds, sometimes you can see, doesn't look too bad on camera, but sometimes you can see through and you can see the bits where you folded. I don't tend to like that, so I'm going to use this, my little piece of wadding, and I'm just literally going to tack it each corner, and I'm just going to attach it to each little bit that I've folded, just in the corners. There hasn't got to be really neat or tight or anything, it's just going to gently hold that in place, so when it's put on here it's got a nice puffy appearance. So I'm just going to stitch this on here, and just a little knot like that through there. And then, as I say, this is quite rough really, because it's just to gently hold it in place. I'm just going to stitch it in each corner, stitch a little bit. Obviously the main thing is you're not going through to the other side when you stitch, or to the, so can you see I'm just literally going through here, do that little top bit there that I folded over, and through there, just to hold it in place. So you don't have to do this piece. It's just what I like to do because I like the puffy appearance, and I don't like it when you can see through the linen. It depends what fabric you're using. If you're using a thicker fabric, you won't be able to see through it anyway. So I'm just going to quickly finish that off. Like that. Another double knot, just looping it through there, and then cut that, and that's fine. So then you just got to secure it a little bit just to keep it in place. And I'm now going to give this a little bit of an iron, because the next stage is to take out all the card, and I want to make sure these are really sharp around the edges and they're folded over, and they're going to keep folded over when I take it out again. So I'm going to do that now. ObviousIt's got paper inside, or cardboardy paper, so just be a little bit careful. But yeah, that's the next stage, so I'm going to go and do that now. Right, so I've given that a nice little iron. And I'm going to do the same as I did for the middle, but probably a little bit more carefully. I'm going to lift these up and gradually take out the paper pieces. And you'll find that it will keep its shape. If it looks like it isn't keeping its shape, I will use a little clip if you've got one on the edge. So I've taken that one out, and it kind of opens up, but then you can just neatly fold it back again. You can see where it's been, but you can then just put a little clip on, just like that, just to make sure it stays there. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But sometimes I do that. It depends on the fabric, and then I will then do the same with each one, and then give it another iron just to make sure it's all nice. And you can press it down with your fingers as well, just to make sure it's all stable. If you look at the front, you can see you can't even tell which one I've taken out, can you? But when you look at the other side, it looks a bit scary, sort of flapping around a bit, but it's fine. You can just press it down and then it just stays there. So I'm just going to take all of the other ones out, and then I will iron it again, and then we're going to pin it to our panel square, the front of the panel square. If you're taking them out and you're worried and you're thinking, oh, they're going all over the place, just do it at your ironing board and do one at a time and iron it as you go along. And as I said, you can use clips or you can use pins if you want to as well. This is probably the bit where you might feel a bit, if you're not used to sewing or anything, or you might feel a bit worried it's going wrong, but it will be fine, I promise. And it does depend. I'm using the Tana Lawn Liberty, which is really fine. So that is flapping about a bit more than if you were using like 100% cotton, or even a poly cotton would probably hold better. So I've taken all those off now, and I'm now going to iron them, and I might make myself a cup of tea as well. Been at work this morning, and I really want to get this finished because I've kind of finished the other panels and I've left one to show you, but I'm quite keen to get it finished now. So as soon as I got home, I want to start finishing this. You can see, even without me pinning it, I've quickly been doing it, how it's held its shape perfectly, really. But on the other, you can kind of see them sticking out a little bit. But I'm now going to iron that, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I pin it onto the square panel. Tea is brewing, and I have ironed this, and what I would say is iron it on this side first, on the back, and then iron the front. And you can see it looks lovely and crisp. Now, we are going to sew it onto our square, whichever square you are using. Obviously, you might be using the same colour or different colours or whatever you like. But mine are all the same colour on the edge of mine, so I'm on the outside of mine. So I've got one of those. And to get it in the centre, what I do is fold my fabric in half and kind of just press down with my fingers like that. Oops. And then I fold it in half into a quarter and press again, and you can then find the centre, pressing it with your fingers, open it up. You can see where that bit is there, which is the centre. And you don't have to do this, but I've got glue, so I tend to just put a little bit of glue in the middle. I'm not a big glue person when I sew. It's literally just English paper piecing that that I use glue for. So I'm just going to pop a bit there just to hold it in place really. If you're not using glue, you don't have to do that. And you could put it however you like. You can keep it so it's this bit is straight at the top. You can put it like that, whichever you like. If you're using something in the center, obviously you'd want that to be central, up the right way. If it was a, I don't know, a house or something, you'd want it to be standing up. But that's completely up to you. It's up to you how you feel it's going to look nice. I'm going to put that sideways like that, I think. And obviously the center of this is the center that's going on the center here. Pressing that down. So that's now pressed in the center, and I'm now going to pin it. Pins here ready. And I tend to just put pins in like that in each one. Folded over edges should stay by themselves. If they're not, you could do it that way if you wanted to, but this is just how I tend to do it, just to keep it in place before we start sewing. And just, you can look on the back to make sure it's flat on the back and you're not creasing up or anything like that. So you want to keep it as flat as possible. If you've got anything, like you can see I've got a little bit of cotton there, you can just tuck anything like that under. I'm just using my scissors, just going to tuck that all in. And then I'll put an extra pin in there just to make sure that that doesn't poke out again. And I do normally put one pin in each one, like that. So that is completely. If you finished this and you sewed it all at this stage and you thought actually it isn't really in the middle and you didn't put it necessarily perfectly in the middle, or you're not happy with it, just accessorize it. If I ever do anything like that, I'll think, right, yeah, I don't know, say it's too far down here, I didn't know to start sewing it. I would just put a little button on there, or if you can do embroider a little flower, or just make it look like it should be there. Or you could say it was too far over one side, you could just do some row of stitching or anything really. Just, it doesn't matter. It's relaxed. You can do whatever you like to it to make it pretty, and you might not mind if it's wonky and it's not in the middle. It doesn't matter anyway. I'm not saying that's a problem, but if it bothers you, there are things you can do to kind of hide it or make it look like it's supposed to be there. That's what I do. Make it look like it's supposed to be there. So I'm gonna pour out my tea, and then I'll bring that back, and then I'll start stitching and show you how I stitch around the edge so we don't really see the stitches too much. I'm back. I've got my cup of fish tea. It's not fish tea, it's just a fish mug. And we're now ready to sew a hexie flower on here. Right, so I'm just going to start, because we don't see this bit. As long as you do it behind where you're going to, you can just do a couple of stitches like that. Put the needle through the loop there, make a little knot, and then you want to come over on the right side, and you can start anywhere, it doesn't matter where you start stitching. So I'm going to come round about there, so you're coming out just as close as possible to the hexagon. And then my next stitch is going to be underneath the hexagon, and then just out, just about there, so as close to the edge as possible. So I've kind of gone under here, you're kind of going under here and then out here, so under here, my next stitch is going down beside where I came out. Can you see? Exactly, so there's going to be a tiny stitch there on the outside. And then I'm going to come up again, just touching the edge of the hexagon. And you can see, you can hardly see that stitch. If your stitches are bigger, it doesn't matter, it's okay, it's handmade. So I'm now going to do the next one. So I've come out right at the edge of my hexagon, and I'm going to go close as possible on the blue to where I've come out, and then I'm going to go underneath on the edge of the hexagon. So you're basically doing little tiny stitches all the way around the outside and making them as small as you possibly can, because the idea is that you can't really see them. But like I said, if you see the odd stitch or a little bit of a stitch, it adds to the charm of a handmade item, I would say. Someone started mowing their lawn. Can you hear it? I do apologise. It's good timing, isn't it? Down through the blue and underneath and up through the edge of the hexagon. Down next to the stitch I've come out, up through the edge of the hexagon. Down next to the stitch on the blue, up through the hexagon. That's my last stitch now. Down, up through the top of the hexagon. And I'm going to finish off underneath. A couple of stitches and a knot to secure. And that is that stage finished. So now that is perfectly added on. Perfectly added on to the centre. We need the wadding now. Remember the wadding which we're going to put in the centre. Lay your piece of fabric, your front piece, with the wadding behind. Pin this on here now, just in each corner, making sure the wadding is flat on the other side. Like so. And we are going to do some stitching around the outside. You don't have to do this again, it's just how I did mine. So I'm just showing you exactly how I did mine in case you want to do exactly the same. So this is the one I've already done. So I've just used some embroidery thread, just a running stitch all around the outside, and I've used 3 strands. And I just got all my embroidery threads out and chose a colour that I thought looked nice and went well and brought out the colours in the fabrics that I've used. But you can use whatever you like, and you don't have to do this piece. You could stitch around a square around the outside. You don't have to do it how I've done it, but this is just how I've chosen to do it. So I haven't chosen any embroidery colours for this, so I'm now going to have a look and see what colour I'm going to use. I'm going to use a turquoisey bluey green for this one. Seagulls in the background. We live near the beach. If you're new to watching me, I live in Suffolk in the UK, and we're really close to well, not really close to the beach, but how long does it take? I suppose I can walk to the beach in about half an hour, so we're pretty close to the beach, and we do get a lot of seagulls, so I don't mind. But they do squawk a lot, they're quite noisy sometimes. So for ease, oh no, I will use those ones. And now I'm going to stitch a running stitch, so I'm just in and out. You could do a few at a time like that, and then pull it through. And the idea is to keep them fairly neat, but again, don't worry too much if one's a different, slightly smaller than the other. It's not the end of the world, and it does add to the handmade look. So I'm just following the edge of the hexagon, and it joins this on, so you've got your wadding then joined on, and it just brings it to life a little bit, I think. But as I said, you could do any sort of stitching you want. If you really enjoy this process, you can do the stitching over different parts of it. Completely up to you. Make it your own, or do the same as me. That one is finished, and I'm going to show you all 4 now. So I finished, because I've already did those. Here's one I did on Blue Peter. Here's one I did earlier. I have made the other ones. So I have 4 panels now. So this is the one we've just finished. We have this one. And this one. Which is my favourite. And we have this one. And this one, because we need tabs for the tops. We've got those little, I've used ribbons. You can make your own tab if you want to, but because I'm trying to make this kind of simple and using what you've had, I quite like the idea of using, oh, my stitches aren't coming undone there. Let me just check that. That's fine. I had this ribbon, so I had a lot of this, which I'd kept from something I'd bought was wrapped up in it. So I've just kept this and I'm using that. So hopefully you've got some ribbon or something similar that you can use too. So there we have that. I folded it in half. How you're folding it downwards, so you're going to stitch it here and then it will be like that when you're finished. Completely up to you how tall you want this piece. It can be, I would just do it by eye and what you want your bag to look like, because it's just there to thread the ribbon or the cord through, however you're going to fasten it off, however you're going to whatever you're going to put through the top there. So it's up to you, whatever look you want to go for. And I've cut out 4 of those. And again, to get them in, obviously you want to work out which bit is your top, so don't randomly put, I'm sure you wouldn't, but don't randomly put them anywhere. So make sure, did I do it with this one? Yeah, that looks nice that way. So work out, like I like that one that way, so I'm going to put the tab at the top. And I cut them all the same size, so I can measure against each other how much is sticking out of the top. To make sure they're all the same. And to make sure it's in the middle, I would just go like that, fold it in half, nip it there, and then you've got a line there. But you could put a pin in if you wanted to in the right place. And then I'm going to put that on there. The same level is going to be sticking at the top as the other one, because I know they're the same size. Make sure it's in the middle. Although if it was slightly off, it's not the end of the world. Or if you get the first one in the middle, you can just lay them up next to each other, on top of each other. To get it in the right position as well, that's good. To do it like that if you prefer. Once you've got the first one centred. So I've got 2 now. This is my 3rd one. I'd imagine if you have, if you do craft a little bit, most of us have ribbon and we keep things, and we've got a stash, pots of bits and pieces that you may have something like this that you can use for yours. I think these ones I got from, they were wrapped around some fat quarters and I just kept them. And what way up do I want that one? Like that. Last one going on. So I've now got 4. And this is the bit I'm going to machine, but you don't have to. If you're hand sewing the whole thing, you can just hand sew across here, but I'm going to stitch across here because I'm going to be using the machine for part of mine, but you might not have a machine. Also, when I finish that, I'm going to neaten up this. I'm going to get rid of the edges of the wadding. Yours might be perfect and you might not have any. I find that wadding does tend to stretch or move around a little bit, so I normally would just neaten everything up before we stitch the lining on, which is going to be the stage after. So I'm just going to machine sew those on and I'll get back to you. Hello, it's another day. and sewn the tags all along the top of all 4, not the bottom one, but I'm going to tell you what to do with the bottom one in a moment. So all 4 tags on, and then we're going to stitch the lining on. And also another thought, if you wanted, if you wanted to add handles, you could do so now by adding, stitching them on like that. So same as the tag, kind of round like that on the 2 ones you want each side. Just an idea, I'm not going to do it on mine, but you could do if you wanted to. So this is the lining piece. So right sides together, we're going to pin that on like so. And this is the bit I'm going to, second part, I'm going to use my machine. I'm going to sew all the way around, apart from leaving a little gap at the side. I'm going to pin it, stitch all around here, across the top bit where the tag is, and leave a gap at the side because that's where we're going to be turning it the right way around. And if you're hand stitching, hand stitch a back stitch all the way around. If you are hand stitching, obviously, because you're going to have to turn it inside out and the right way around and handle it quite a lot, I would make sure your stitches are quite tight and small to keep it secure. So I'm now going to pin that together. And what I do sometimes is just put, because I know I've got to leave a gap, I put the pin sideways there, just so I don't forget. I'm sure you won't forget anyway, but sometimes I do just as a reminder so I don't whiz all the way around the outside and I can't get it around the right way again. So I'm going to stitch that one and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards so you can see. And I'm also going to do exactly the same thing with the bottom. So I've already pinned that, but I'll just show you. So I've got the right sides together, pinned all the way around the outside. I'm going to leave a little gap so I can turn that round the right side. And you'll see you'll need to do that with all 4 of the side pieces and with the bottom piece. So if you're hand stitching, it is quite a lot of stitching, but if you have a machine, it's probably easier to do it on the machine. Stitched all the way around the outside, apart from the little gap here. And that's where I'm going to use to turn it the right way around. What I'm also going to do is snip all the corners. If you ever sew and you are sewing a pointy corner like this, then snip across there. I've gone actually very close to the edge because I wasn't watching, I was looking at the camera. So I'm going to snip all 4 corners on each one, just so that turns, and then you can, when you turn it through, you'll have a nice pointy corner. Let's do all of those, and on this one. What the other side should look like with the wadding on. So let's turn it the right way round. Oh, I've only left a little tiny gap here, but it will still come through. I'll try and do it that way so you can see. Because I don't normally make tutorials. I'm not used to really doing things at the camera. I'm doing them so I can see them, but I've got to try and remember to do them so you can see them. There's all bits of fabric flint going everywhere. So it's going to be creased when it comes out, so don't worry about that because we can give it a good iron. You can see there's the tab at the top, at the corners. Sometimes I give it a bit of a shake. And you need a pointy tool or something for the corners. I've just got a pencil, which is a fabric pencil, so it won't come out anywhere, but anything pointy, knitting needle, as long as you're careful. And then we just point the corners out because we want a nice sharp corner. You can go along the edges as well, just make sure they're nice, and if you roll them as well, just so that all comes out nicely. All the corners, rolling them. And then we've got this piece here, which is open, and you'll probably find, like mine does, if you just fold it in, it goes in really easily by itself. Not by itself, but it kind of gets into the right position by itself. So I'm just going to get a clip. So just to keep that where I want it, I'm just going to clip that because we're going to hand sew that in a moment, but I'm going to iron it all first. So just keep that, just so you know, just so it's in the right place. And the same with this one. I won't show me doing that one. I'm going to turn that one the right way around as well. Do the same thing, iron them both, and then I will come back, show you how I stitch along there. And then we're kind of getting towards the end. We're getting there. So I've attached my cotton to the inside. I've just done a little couple of stitches just inside, just to stitch it, just to attach the thread. And then I'm going to stitch tiny little stitches just over and over the edge. Just closing it up. The good thing about this, if you are going to use this, obviously you can use whatever fabric you like, but if you do decide to use a chambray, or you could use a denim, it doesn't show the stitches. It's really good at hiding the stitches because it has a white fleck in anyway. So if you're a beginner sewer and you're concerned about your stitches and you want it to look neat, and you're worried that you can't make it neat, or you're worried that you're not neat enough, it's quite good to hide the stitches. This little bit, these bits are going to be hidden inside the bag anyway, so they're not going to be hugely noticeable. So that's that. So basically what you should have now is, I haven't stitched this one yet, I'll do it in a minute, 4 side panels, which if you didn't want to make a bag, you could use that for something else. You could use it, you could hang it on the wall if you were so proud of it. It looks so good. You could hang it on the wall. You could use it as a little pot cozy. You could use it on, you could make a table runner. But yes, if you imagine them all in a row, it's better doing that all in a row like that. But today we're making a bag. So I'm going to finish stitching the edge of the lining. Just I've got one more to do along there. And then we're going to sew them all together into a cube, and it's going to start looking like a bag then. So we're ready to put them all together. So put them in the right order, how you want them to be. And how I did it was last time, and I'm going to do it the same again, is I just started stitching the sides together, and then I added on the bottom when I'd got all 4 round. That's the only way I've tried, so that's the way I'm going to do it this time. There might be a different way where you put the bottom on as you go, I don't know, but I'm going to stick to what I did last time because that worked okay. So I don't really mind too much what order these go in, so I'm going to put these 2 together for mine and just pin along the edge, the outside bits together. Like so, and I am literally just going to hand stitch along there. You could machine stitch, but I want this to be mainly a hand stitch project, and I think it's going to be easier because it's quite fat, and I don't like putting fat things through my sewing machine, so I'm going to hand sew all along the edge here. Then as you can see, the bag is forming. Exciting, isn't it? Oh, what I was going to say is, which I'm slightly tempted to do, but I'm not going to, but you could do some more stitching, which I think would look really nice all the way around the outside, and that would then be in the middle as well. I'm not going to do that on this one because, to be honest, I want to get the tutorial up and running because people have asked for it, but I think that would look really nice as well. Just a bit more embroidery, running stitch all the way around the outside of each one. Again, you don't have to, it's just an idea that I think would look quite nice. So right, I'm going to get on with that. We're just using exactly the same stitch as before, just over and over. And what I would say is try and get through all 4 pieces of the fabric. As you can see, you've got the outside and the inside, so I'm just going to put a little knot in there, like so. And then over and over, but I'm going to go through the pink, the blue, and the pink, if you can see through each bit, to keep it nice and neat, both sides, inside and outside. And you might need a thimble because it's quite hard to get through, and you need to pull quite tight, but not so tight that your thread breaks. But I'm only going on the edge, I'm not going too far inside, just stitching the edges together. I feel like sometimes in bag making, this end bit where you're putting everything together and you're doing it on or you're sewing it on a sewing machine can be quite difficult, because it's, especially if you're using wadding or anything onto, it's quite, you can see, you can't really see the stitches on there. What I would say is to start, I haven't done that very well, but to start from the inside. So when you first start, and then you can just cut off your little bits. I've got mine sticking out here. That's fine. Yeah, I think it's quite hard to sew things like this on a machine when you've got a lot of fatness, a lot of layers of fabric together, whereas this is much easier to do. And I say my advice is you do need to pull it tight, but obviously not so tight that your fabric, that you're not so tight that your thread snaps. But I'm with this, I called it moon threads earlier, but it's, what do I use? Coats Moon. It's not moon threads. I think I'm thinking of Moon Face from the Faraway Tree. So I'm going to sew along here, and then I'm going to put the next one on and the next one on, so they're all joined together exactly the same, and then I'll come back to you when we're ready to put the bottom bit on. It's going to look so nice. I'm excited now. Because I've been concentrating on recording it, I haven't concentrated too much on that I'm going to get a nice lovely bag at the end of it. So I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out, and it's so going to be different to this one, as in this one's all different colours, bright and colourful, whereas this is more subdued. But yeah, I still think it looks really good, even if I do say so myself. Just a bit of a tip. To keep the stitches nice and tight, every couple of inches or so, I do a little knot. So I'm going along like that, and then I'll just loop it through there, and then it just keeps them, not from undoing, but it just keeps them nice and tight along the edge. Just a bit of a tip here, one of my corners, I hadn't really poked it out properly, so I just got my needle and gently pulled it out like that, and that came out into a point, because I couldn't put anything inside because I'd already stitched this side up. So just a bit of a tip there. And I am, with my hand sewing, I'm this far along. I'm now going to sew on number 4. So I've hand sewn 3 sides together. I'm now on the last one, and I've used my clips to clip along the side. Once I've sewn that, I'm going to be adding the bottom on. Make sure you get the bottom the right way. So this is inside out at the moment, and I want this to be on the inside, the pretty floral on the inside, so not on the bit with the tags. It's going to go upside down then. So I will be pinning this on here. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Like so, and then I'm going to stitch along there, then I'm going to go along this side, stitch along there until I'm finished all the way around. And I've basically hand sewn all the corners, all the sides together, then I'm going to turn it around the inside out, and it will be the bag. But I've got to sew this side first. Just got one more left to do. This does take quite a while to stitch around all the edges. Don't worry too much if you can see your stitches a tiny bit, because it's going to be, you can see mine on there a little bit, because it's going to be on the inside anyway, so it's not a problem. So I'm going to just carry on stitching till I get to the end, and then we can have the grand reveal, and then tie around the top and see what it looks like complete. So she's all stitched together. Now I'm going to turn around the right side around. And there we have all joined together. And we have the cord, which I don't know where I've put it. Here it is. So I'm going to just put the cord around. So there, I've threaded that all the way around, and mine is probably a bit too long for what I need. So I'm going to trim it off, tie a knot in the end and trim it off. So I've threaded the cord around the top. And there it is, finished. Lovely English paper piecing, boxy bag, which we can use to put our projects in or whatever we like. And you can tie the centre up, keep everything safe. There's a look from the top of it. All the way around. And I'm just going to put a little bow in the middle just to fasten the top. Not that it really needs it, but it looks a bit nicer with the bow like that. There we go. Lovely boxy English paper piecing bag complete. This did take quite a long while to make because it's hand sewn, so just bear that in mind if you do make your own. It's not a quick project, but a lot of hand sewn projects aren't quick, are they? And obviously, as I said before, you can decorate the edges, the 4 panels, each square, however you like. So I hope you've enjoyed watching that. I've enjoyed making it, and I hope it was okay and easy for you to follow along. And yeah, let me know how you get on if you make your own. Thank you for watching, if you watched to the end, and take care everybody. See you soon. Bye.